This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
Welcome to episode 54 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter, a job search site. As regular viewers will recognize, our regular co-host, Jeanette Leeds of AMS, is not on with us today, which is a bummer because A, she's way smarter, and B, definitely better looking. We have a face for radio, as they say. She has a face for live stream podcasts. But one of Jeanette's coworkers at AMS, Steve Tiufekchiev, who I've known and really had a tremendous amount of respect for 15 years now, I think is something like that, is when we first crossed paths.
At least.
Is joining me today as the co-host. Steve, maybe you can tell people a little bit about your background and what you do at AMS.
Yeah, so, great. Thanks, Stephen. So I've actually spent quite a bit of time in talent acquisition, decades. We'll just leave it at that. Much of it on the early career talent side, which I still love and have a passion for. Helped create some software at a company called Yellow. Some folks might be aware of that. But now working with AMS. And for those of you who haven't really heard about AMS, it's a RPO, but it's a global RPO. And what makes it unique is we actually focus on early talent, or we have a focus on early talent, which a lot of RPOs do not. So I'm excited to be leading the charge in the US to help clients understand that there is actually help to ensure that in their early talent programs, whether they are thinking about small resource allocations or large approaches, large projects, we can help with that. So my role is to spread the news, spread the word, talk a lot, something that I think Stephen, you and I do a lot of and do well, right? So
we get paid by the word.
We get paid to talk, as the recruiters do. So glad to be here. And Kyle, how about yourself?
I like it. Paid by the word. I'm gonna take that proposal to my CEO.
Trademark.
Trademark. TM. Well, it's an honor to be here and to join you on the show. So my name's Kyle Rode. I'm the VP of Human Resources for an organization called CPM Holdings. We're a global manufacturing and engineering organization. And prior to that, I've been in the recruiter seat in every single one of my HR jobs, primarily from a generalist standpoint. But I cut my teeth in high volume recruiting in the retail sector when I first graduated college. So the high volume thing is near and dear to my heart. I have the honor of hosting the Rebel Human Resources podcast. And get to talk to listeners every week about innovation in the HR space. So looking forward to being on the other side of the hot seat today. Maybe we'll see how you are with your questions. If it's easy,
we'll be gentle.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess, Kyle, since the topic is disruption, I don't think we could think of a time maybe in history that there isn't more disruption going into 2024 for HR, right? Whether it's the ongoing wars around the world, supply chain issues, talent issues, the aging workforce, skills scarcity, the list just goes on, right? So by its nature, I think HR is now in a world of disruption. I'm curious to get your thoughts on, in a global capacity, how much or how different is that to be dealing with those issues at a global level versus just thinking about it from, let's call it a US perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so the audience has some idea of scope. So, our organization, we're in 34 locations in 14 different different countries. And so the answer is it's complex, right? Like that's the short answer. But the reality is, there are regional nuances to some of the employee concerns around disruption that are really important to understand as an HR professional and as a leader of our organization. As an example, when there's a war impacting Israel and we have employees near the Middle East, that's obviously something we need to take note of. When we have locations close to the Ukraine, we have to be aware of it. When this unknown disease called COVID, bubbles up in Wuhan, where we actually have a location, it's something we have to pay attention to. But I would say more broadly, it's also, while there's complexity, there's also similarity. And I would argue that as a global HR practitioner, we are much more similar than we are different on a global level. There is nuance, but the basic tenets of good human resources, good recruiting, good leadership are fairly universal. People want to be heard. People want to feel like they're contributing at work. People want to like the people they work with and work for. People are looking to take care of themselves and their families, and live, a prosperous and fulfilling life. And as long as long as I've been doing the global thing, is if you keep the human element in mind, in general, you're almost never going to go wrong. So there are some differences and some things to be aware of, but the reality is this disruption exists everywhere. And the tactics might just be slightly different, but keeping that human element in mind is the key to being successful in my mind.
I loved how you talked about how the similarities are greater than the dissimilarities. And maybe you can share an example or two from different markets, nothing private or anything like that, but just like, in China, Ukraine, whatever, you ran across this and you were surprised at how similar that was to what we see in the US. And then also something that maybe was surprising to you, that it's like, wow, that's really different. And I wasn't expecting that to be so different.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, well, I'll just use the countries that you mentioned. So,
Sure.
very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to travel in my job, and was recently in Southeast Asia visiting some of our locations, and had an opportunity to go out to dinner with one of our teams in China, and they invited family members to the dinner, and it just at the event, and as I was interacting with people and talking about their jobs and their goals and their motivations and their desires, it struck me that this is the exact same type of a thing that I would do in Waterloo, Iowa, or Crawfordsville, Indiana, or Traverse City, Michigan, with our team and their families, and the interactions were almost identical. It was kids that were having fun playing with each other, just like my kids would be playing with anybody else. It was people, talking about their goals and their dreams and what they love about the organization and what they wish could be, maybe be improved. And again, it's like this, like the commonalities there were, different cultures, but essentially is exactly the same motivations, and just kind of interesting. Side note, if you're ever singing karaoke in China, they love John Denver. So it's just like a fun little random little fun fact. And there might be video somewhere, but you have to be in the circle of trust in order to see it. In the same context where I've observed,
if it was me singing, I would definitely be suggesting that you listen to me sing before you eat, not after.
Yeah.
But
It was good time. In the same breath, I also think that there's some distinct differences in the attitude and approach towards work culturally, depending upon the region you're in. So as an example, I'll use an example of the EU.
Yeah.
We have some locations in the EU. The attitude and expectation of the role that work plays in people's lives is very, very different than in the United States, as an example, right? I would describe it as it's the, work to live, not live to work kind of approach. And I think a lot of times we'll lump that in with like kind of a generational thing. The reality is I think it's much more of a cultural thing related to the level of prominence and importance that somebody puts upon the work that they do and the prestige that gives them in the society that they are a part of, as opposed to like a generational thing. So just kind of an interesting societal observation. And to bring this back to like how I think about this from an HR and a recruiting standpoint, these types of motivations and these types of societal norms have to be taken into account when I think about how do I engage, how do I recruit, how do I retain, how do I lead? Because when somebody's motivations and tendencies are different because of their individual priorities, you can't lead them all the same. Right. So while we are all very similar, that doesn't mean that it's like a peanut butter approach and you just treat everybody the same. It's, it's more, there's more nuance to it than that.
Whether you're a payroll pro or an employee wanting to understand your paycheck better, we've got you covered. Tune into It's About Payroll for expert insights on payroll trends and compliance, or check out It's About Your Paycheck, the go-to podcast for employees looking to understand their pay and rights. 2 great shows, 2 great hosts. Listen now, brought to you by Work Defined, where payroll meets clarity.
Cool.
I think,
we have time for one more quick question if you have.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's a great point. And working for a global company, I think the U.S. could learn some things from our partners around the world where they do have a different approach. For example, diversity. The UK, which I interact with individuals all the time, much broader definition of diversity, much more inclusive of different kinds of approaches. And I think we could learn some things from that. Shifting slightly, Kyle, Steve and I have talked a lot about this, the workforce issues around scarcity of talent, skills talent, aging workforce. In the early career space where I sit, we know there's a demographic shift coming in a few short years that will mean fewer people entering the workforce. Is HR like paying attention to that? And if so, how big is that issue? My opinion is I think some folks are not recognizing some of these systemic changes that are about to occur. But what's your opinion on that?
There's a reason that my podcast is called Rebel Human Resources, because I think we need to wake up in human resources to some of these things. Like, the strategy right now is, ostrich, right? We'll stick our head in the sand. We'll just keep doing it the same way that we've always done it. And let's hope that it like magically fixes itself. But the reality is that the future, this concern of like, there's not enough technical talent, there's not enough just pure people to fill the roles that are open. It's already here. And all you have to look at is the wage inflation issue. It's just a supply and demand issue. Wages are continuing to creep up. They will continue to creep up in these specific sectors where there's a gap of talent availability, purely because there's a gap of talent availability. So until we figure out how to address the supply and demand issue, this is just a logical outcome of an economic principle, the scarcity of talent, right? So my argument and my call to action for HR professionals that are dealing with this issue is take some accountability and ownership of developing these individuals either into the role or developing job structures and organizational structures that allow you to not have to need that role anymore. So, I think it's a little bit of a hybrid approach where we've got to be open-minded, and I think HR needs to be the most open-minded to, can we automate? Can we AI? Can we roboticize? Whatever word you want to use. I don't know what the word is there. Like, is there an opportunity to reduce the requirement of labor? And in the areas where that's not an opportunity, how do we upskill, train, and fix the supply gap, the talent gap? And that's in my mind, we've completely underinvested in learning and development resources to help us do that. It's always an afterthought, not a forethought. And so that's where, I think that long answer, but basically the answer is no. We need to figure it out. And it's not just human resources, but we need to be at the forefront of asking these questions, because the equation is not going to get any better, right? If anything, it's going to continue to exacerbate.
Totally agree. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Steve, it has, as always, been a pleasure. Kyle,
thanks for inviting me.
Great talking to you, and definitely people should listened to your podcast, the Rebel Human Resource Podcast.
I have.
Awesome stuff. Absolutely. Cheers, gentlemen. Welcome to 2024.
Cheers.
Great.
Take me home, country road. All right.
Got to find that YouTube.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.